Okay, welcome everybody to day 8 of the 10-day Living Yoga Challenge. Today we're going to explore the third of the niyamas, which is called tapas. And tapas can be translated a lot of times as discipline, but I think it can also have this translation of kind of this like fiery, passionate energy that can be tapped into when we are committed or dedicated to certain things. So since this challenge is all about living our yoga practice off the mat, what are some examples of what it could look like to live tapas out in our lives? And the first example I want to give is related to our physical bodies. So first and foremost, the thing that comes to mind is exercise, picking an exercise routine and sticking with it. And then also being cognizant that this exercise routine is something that is going to serve our bodies and be kind to our bodies as well. So for example, if you are someone who doesn't really enjoy running and has never run very often in their lives, I would say it's not a great idea to say, okay, now I'm going to commit to running 2 to 3 miles every other day. So I'm asking you to think about an exercise routine that feels good in your body, that helps you feel healthy and strong, and that feels enjoyable and doable to you. I think we can also think about this in the sense of diet. So making sure that we are consuming healthy foods. Again, I've mentioned in previous videos the idea of shopping for your food, making time to cook and prepare your food so that we know that we're committing to our own health from the inside out. And I think lastly, this idea about being diligent with medication, with vitamins, with supplements, with any of the things that we know are really good for us that we need in our lives every day in order to feel healthy and in order to feel our best. Tapas is about committing to all of those things and really making them a focus of our day. A second example of how we can live tapas is with our passion projects and our hobbies. I think so often there's things that we're interested in doing that we're passionate about, and we just say like, oh my gosh, I never have time to look into that or continue the project or take it further. And so if we practice tapas and we discipline ourselves, we commit ourselves to this, it's about the idea of creating time in our schedule for these different projects, hobbies, and ideas. It's about creating a physical space in your home, in your office, in your, any other space that you choose to do work that is going to be conducive to helping you get in the groove really on these different projects or ideas that you're excited about, that you're passionate about. And I just want to share a quick story too. A friend of mine is an artist, and he's always talked about this idea that, sometimes it's hard. Some days you wake up and you're not feeling super creative or super inspired, but he talked about the idea of just going into his studio anyway and starting to draw or starting to paint, even if he had no idea what he was going for or what his inspiration of the day was. But the simple act of showing up, creating time and space, and really being present with his art kind of opened him up to this channel of like divine inspiration, and then ideas and creativity would come to him kind of because he was there dedicating himself to that work, whether or not it felt super exciting or great on that particular day. So kind of the same idea of taking discipline and focus into your hobbies or your passion projects, just showing up and making space for them. A third example of living this concept is with the idea of self-work. So, I think tapas could be about committing to anything that helps you to grow, to expand, to become a better version of yourself. And I'll share an example from my life. I think this year has been quite an introspective year for many of us, for me in particular. And definitely over the course of this summer, I've been doing a lot of self-work around the idea of my implicit biases. So being able to identify those biases, being able to notice how they consciously and unconsciously drive my actions, my interactions, how they play out in my relationships, how they sometimes determine the ways that I react in different situations. And so really like digging into those biases and reading more, educating myself about topics connected with those. And then, ultimately with the hope of, being able to kind of eradicate those biases from my life, or at least be so aware of them that I'm not acting and doing and reacting unconsciously from that space. So that's just kind of an example too of sort of committing to doing the work for yourself. Because I think a lot of times, self-improvement, it's not always easy. It takes work, it takes focus, it can be exhausting, it can be tiring, it can be emotional. It's certainly all those things at all different times. And so Tapas, though, is about kind of like lighting that inner fire and really dedicating yourself to that work, because ultimately that's the goal, right? For us to continually grow and learn and evolve as individual souls. I think, another example of this could be around mental health. So if you are working with some type of, therapist or psychiatrist, again, that or other like practitioner of sorts, that work can be really grueling to kind of reflect and practice and go through what's happened in our lives. And yet it can be really beneficial to us in the end if we're able to commit to that process. Another example I can think of is if you are, struggling with alcoholism or happen to be a recovering alcoholic. Oftentimes those people have, mentors or sponsors or friends that they turn to, or meetings that they attend that really help them to stay focused on being sober. And that can be another example of tapas playing out, like really committing to doing the things you need to do in order to feel your healthiest and to feel your best. Another example is we can have tapas in the workplace. So that can be getting really focused on the tasks that we've been assigned, the job that we have to do, and really trying to root out and remove distraction. So I know, like, when working in person, a lot of times it can be a social environment and you're chatting with colleagues and catching up with people, or you're checking your personal email, or you're, searching the internet for, gifts for someone, etc. We all do little things like that. And of course, that's only human. However, can we think about, as we practice this in our lives, noticing where that happens in our workday and kind of trying to minimize that, really trying to bring our focus back to the tasks at hand and doing the best job we possibly can, without cutting corners and, watching out for that, especially if you're working from home right now, that scrolling on Instagram all day, or, going to do something in your house and kind of like moving your mouse around, you're sort of working, but sort of not, those types of things. So maybe trying to kind of re-excite and reinvigorate ourselves about the work that we do, and how can we get more excited and dedicated to that work. And I know this is kind of a long video. So the last example I want to give is tapas in relation to spirituality. So that can be a whole range of different things. An example could be if you practice physical yoga asana, and or meditation and or breath work, again, really thinking about how can you incorporate those practices into your days and weeks more often, more regularly, and more steadily. You can think about making more time for connection with the divine around you. So for some people, that is the act of prayer. For other people, it might be walking in nature. For others, it might be another method of connecting with the divine, perhaps, tarot cards or angel cards, oracle decks, something like that. And then lastly, it could also be something like attending services of some sort. So if you ascribe to a particular religious belief, it could be attending church or temple services. It could be going to a spiritual center. A lot of Buddhism centers offer different classes and meditation groups, etc. So it's just really the idea of, again, whatever your spiritual practice is that you feel called to, how can you come back to that in a way that is more regular and happening, on a frequent basis, whatever that means for you. So a lot of different ways that we can incorporate this idea of tapas into our lives off of the yoga mats. And today's Live Your Yoga Off the Mat challenge is going to be connected to that spirituality aspect. So most specifically focused on yoga asana, the physical practice of yoga, as well as meditation. So you'll see a lot more details in this morning's email, but I'm going to challenge you to spend anywhere from, let's say, minimum 30 minutes, maximum however many minutes you want, but committing today to doing some type of physical yoga practice in combination with meditation. And again, more details in today's email. And if you have questions, feel free to reach out to me. But I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. It is day 8 of the 10-day Living Yoga Challenge. We're almost to the end, and I thank you so much for being here with me.